Hello, this is Begin the Slaughter. I'm Murder Who. Nothing is really graphically eye-catching today, so enjoy some B-roll. Yesterday I didn't make a devlog. That was because I spent most of the day making the Steam page for the game, which isn't great devlog content. However, in 2 to 4 more business days, that should be up, and then I can ask you to go and wishlist the game. Today I did make another region front to back, the second village. Nothing exciting there, only one new model, although I did spend a bit of time making the Mont and Bailey structure using the region control maps and careful movement of all the buildings. Neat shape. I did, however, nerd snipe myself into a number of fixes and improvements. Snipers weren't working the way I liked, so now instead of raycasting around themselves, they have a large body above them that moves downwards, and they teleport to the highest collision that body encounters. It does this once a frame, and the snipers otherwise do not move. Once the body no longer collides, they are at a local high point, the body is disabled, and they stay still in that position forever, which puts them into very nice sniper perches, sometimes. This makes snipers a much harder threat to deal with, as it is difficult to maintain speed while climbing or otherwise gaining height, and the snipers will be perched far above you. On the other hand, they're going to be pretty far away from you and trying to shoot you, so they're not going to be too accurate. So this is going to be more of a thing where they are a threat if they are paired with other enemies. Buildings were sometimes spawning over one another. I had previously solved this, quotation marks, by implementing a check to make sure the crystals from each region weren't within 20 units of each other. But now that I'm starting to make some larger regions, that no longer always works. Now, buildings check the size of their control map and use the X dimension of that instead is the distance to check. I don't mind when stuff like wheat fields overlap each other, or tool sheds popping up in wheat fields, but for some other buildings, overlaps can make crystals impossible to break because they spawn in the middle of a building or a silo or what have you. The next problem, I have a problem with frame rate. Right now, an engine frame takes 60 milliseconds to run, which is a blistering 17 engine frames per second. Per second. The visual impact isn't large. The GPU finishes processing in 6 milliseconds, or about 170 frames per second. But the engine frame will leak over to graphics problems eventually if I don't figure out the cause right now and get on it. I don't know the source of that. The scripts only take 8 milliseconds per frame, the audio server only takes 0.05 milliseconds, and the physics engine now takes 4 milliseconds. Godot's profiler does not report any other sources of lag, even though it reports that process frames occur every 40 to 80 milliseconds. So I did optimize a lot today. The physics frames were taking 30 milliseconds when I started the day, so I simplified the physics calculations by disabling physics objects far away from the player, reducing the amount of terrain that has collision generated near the player, and simplifying a lot of collision objects. This led to no visible improvement, but would likely have gotten worse as I created the other third of the game, so it's not wasted time. It also didn't lead to any visible, not improvement, getting worse. So that's nice. The mines are quite large, and they are all loaded all at once, unlike the Smart Terrain. I use the Terrain 3D plugin for Godot, by the way, and I highly recommend it as it is exceptionally competent. So now the mines hide themselves until you enter them, and well in the mines, every other building and the terrain are hidden instead. This won't be noticeable under normal means, you won't be able to see above the surface when you're below it and vice versa, but it does greatly reduce the amount of time spent culling every frame, and so it did reduce the GPU load, which was getting close to an area where I was kind of concerned about it. Personally, I have an NVIDIA 3060, which is quite nice, but it also means that I need to ensure that the GPU load is around 1/4 to 1/5 of what my card can handle, so that less powerful GPUs also have no problem playing my game at 60 frames per second. That's not a hard target, there's tons I could optimize better, but I'm largely avoiding optimization because it is simply unneeded labor beyond a certain point. Using Godot already means that I require a Vulkan-capable graphics card, since I'm using the Forward Plus renderer, so there is also a lower limit to the machines I can target, and of course you never want to prematurely optimize, that's just wasted effort and time. I think today didn't take optimizing too far, so it was useful to understand the limits of what I can shove into one world without further optimizing, which will help me design the last few parts of the game. I also revised the human enemy scripts, and now Fast Physics straight up skips most of the human scripts instead of teleporting and getting height from the terrain, which is what they did in lieu of collision in the normal Fast Physics. This will be somewhat noticeable to players who want to go the stealthy takedown route and stalk loose actors between regions, but sadly the performance gain is worth it. It's another 15 milliseconds, bringing the total script time down from 23 to 8 seconds. Since I got everything done for the day, and then some, I also worked on the mines a little bit. My base algorithm was solid, most of my code was too, but the errors that crept through my migraines were things like plus signs instead of negative signs, slightly different conditions on copy-pasted code, updating one instance of something and not the other. As I refactored the code today into something more readable, I caught a lot of these. So for example, one trick you can do to reduce the amount of copy-pasted code and the amount of places you have to update it is now when I have a logic check, that needs to be done a lot of different times, a lot of different places. Instead of copy-pasting it, which is a very lazy thing to do that I usually do in a first pass, I defined a lambda, that's that check. And now I'm calling that lambda every time I need to make the check. So now there can be no more cases of me forgetting to change that check in one place and not the other, because I just need to change the lambda that everything else is calling. So the code is also much more reasonable without long logic statements copy-pasted every few lines. That alone caught a lot of errors. So now as a result of that, up-down tunnels now always have the right rotation and thus connect correctly. My main problem before wasn't actually that I had the rotation wrong or anything like that. It's that whenever the up-down tunnel could not be placed in its initial spot, it was using a different base rotation. So whenever I fixed it for one, I broke it for the other, and I didn't realize that I had two separate connections there. Region connectors now placed correctly instead of only placing themselves in one region and not the other sometimes. That was actually due to a problem where I was trying to modify the inputs to a function. So I had region and compared region. I said, hey, if region.x is larger than compared region.x, swap them. That turns out not to work. You can replace one of them, but not the other this way. So I was saying, to find a new variable temp is equal to region, then region is equal to compared region, and then compared region is equal to temp. This didn't work. Because it was all references, this means that they both became region, which was my problem there. So now what I have instead, I have two regions, two more variables defined inside the function. Region 1 is equal to region 2 is equal to compared region, and region 1 and region 2 are what I swap when I do the code. This works. So that is a very subtle one that I didn't realize would work like that. Especially because for a lot of functions, I do actually pass in arrays or objects that the function will then update. I also scrapped my connect point A to B code entirely. I coded a quick replacement for it today, and it still has some bug in it I've not sussed out yet, but it's already much, much better than my old code, which was very simple, and I have no idea where it was going wrong, but hey, if you can't figure it out, just scrap it sometimes. It's better than trying to figure out your migraine code. Alright, that's it for the day. Thanks for watching.